right? And within that, you need to show, the religious literature. So you can't possibly be writing, all like about everything, right? So you're not going to basically cherry pick. You're not going to basically say, so probably, 10 people have made a similar kind of an argument, but I believe, this is the one, which is perhaps much more important, right? Or like you would allude to, right? Which is why we give references, right? So like say structural functionalism, 10 people, have actually worked on it, and you would basically refer, right? Because you're trying to show the referee first that you are familiar with the literature, right? And it's not only about familiarity, right? It's not only about, that you know. It's also about, how you are using it, right? Just by knowing something, right? So yes, I know, that there are 10 books, which might exist on a particular thing, but probably I haven't read even a single one of them, right? But even if, but then I decide, to actually refer to them. But that might run into trouble, from, as far as the referee is concerned. Or like, probably later, as the paper ever gets published. Some would always say, this does not actually work well. Right? But what's important here is that as a researcher, that's our task. Basically identify those gaps. Right? And this is precisely where, you would actually engage with the text, critically. Right? Now, this is something, which is missing from the text. Or this is something, which does not make sense. Or there is no chronological order, or like the argument which is being made, is really lopsided, or it is something, which is not even handled. Right? So these dimensions, actually have to reflect, as far as the final outcome is concerned. It's also a process. Process in terms of its critical engagement. It's also about, how do you read the text. Right? Now, reading the text is important, and certainly an academic text, does not make. It's not like for bedtime read, right? Yes, it's pretty so. You might be sleepy after that, which is a good thing, but you got to be like mentally alert while reading the text. Right? And all of us, have different, preferences while it comes to reading. But at the end of the day, you need to basically identify. Right? You need to have pointers. Right? You need to basically ensure, while reading, this argument, is probably not making sense, or like, this is something, which is lacking, or probably you still not be in a position to point out that there is something, which does not make sense as far as the text is concerned, but you are unable to identify it, which is quite all right, right? Because the important thing here is that you know something is not right, right? But probably much later you will realize, what was lacking, which is why, you might want to revisit the text again, or you might want to, revisit your review of literature again, right? And because you basically revisited your review of literature, might also mean, that you might have to take a fresh look at the kind of questions which you might have asked, or like the kind of questions you thought you would be answering them. So yes, reading critically, it's like reading any other book, right? Read the introduction, so at the onset, this is what the author is basically said, basically says, that this is what, we are basically trying to answer, and then see, how exactly they have gone about it. Methodology is again central to it. Basically, how, or like in what manner you basically reach a particular conclusion, and whether it's a strong or a weak research model. Now, weak research model, you could have a weak research model, right? And I don't think, that's such a bad thing. The reason it's not such a bad thing is primarily because it will also depend upon what exactly you're working on. Now, say if you're working on something, on which no one has actually ever attempted to do a particular thing, the fact that you have a weak research model is much better than not having a model at all, right? Or like, not working on a particular thing, right? Or probably, I might believe that your model is a weak model, primarily because I haven't come across anything, which has basically tried to grapple with what you are trying to do here. Right? So that is I mean, yes, I mean, probably if I'm on the other side, I can be fairly critical of it. But at the end of the day, one has to think in terms of what kind of a contribution, it might make as far as our existing corpus of knowledge is concerned on a particular issue. So we might begin there, and probably that's the case. I mean, most of the research begins with weak research models, right? Those models are fine-tuned over a period of time. It does not happen overnight. Right, which is why I might come up with a theory, and then I might want to revisit it, after 10 years. Right? And it's like if you read, say you read Francis Fukuyama, right? So if you read, his End of History, The Last Man, he made some claims quite influential. Very recently, he actually revisits, and he basically says, that the kind of claims which he made may not hold true today. So why would he do that? Right? I mean, just because he made certain claims, in the early 1990s does not mean, that theory is not important. I mean, it is important. Right? Because at that particular point of time, we didn't know, how the world might have changed. Right? So it had an advantage, it had the first mover advantage. Right? So after that, whoever would come, whether they like your theory or they dislike your theory, they still have to engage with you. Right? And that is important. Right? And which is why, say there's so much emphasis these days, whether how much scopus ranking you have, how many citations you have. So it boils down to, you have to basically show, that you are like different. Right? There are two ways of doing it. Right? One is a more popular way. Say something amazingly provocative. Right? Amazingly provocative, which would basically rattle, the manner in which people have understood a particular phenomenon. I think Ashish Chandra is very good at that. Right? So there is never a boring moment. The reason there is never a boring, or actually there's nothing. Right? There's never a boring moment because that is what attracts you. Right? But once you're attracted, it boils down to more serious business. Right? So, which is why, it's essential that irrespective of whether you have a weak research model, strong research model, at the end of the day, the bottom line here is that at least you are interested in research, or like trying to show us, that, or like everybody else, that this is something, which you would want to work on. This would be your contribution. So each, of course, as I said, you cannot be everything, right? So you would basically begin with, key actors, if they are in the market, right? So if I work on elections and if I work on electoral rules, then I know, which are the key players I'll be looking at, right? So if I want to work on BJP, I know, which are the key authors, I'll be looking at, right? And from there, one thing would actually lead to another. Then I'm basically delving much deeper into it, right? But to begin with, it would only be, say 4 or 5 actors, right? And then I'm going to, of course, look at the kind of resources or the references they might have. And from there, I will take the debate forward. So it's not like, that when we start a research, we know everything about the topic. We don't. And that's precisely why, we are doing a particular, we've chosen to do research. Right? Because it has to also be a puzzle, which can occupy us. And that's certainly the case, as far as like the PhDs are concerned. It's a long-term commitment, right? It has to be something which is complex enough, which is fascinating enough to keep us, interested, right? In what we are planning to work on. Not only should it keep us interested, it should be something, which should also hold true once you have finished your work. Right? So it's not something, which becomes dated or becomes obsolete, the moment you hit the market. Right? So there has to be a long-term horizon to it. Right? So and which is why, say it becomes important, to look at the review, to look at the literature. Right? See, what kind of contributions have been made. See, what kind of questions, which you would be asking. Right? right? And whether these questions, would be the same questions which people would be asking, say, 5 years down the line. Right? Of course, I mean, your research would not have a godlike character. I mean, it should not, right? You're not basically here, writing a religious text, right? Which won't be open to scrutiny, which would basically, have validity, across time and space. No, certainly not, right? But at the same time, these 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, if future researchers, would want to work on similar themes, then they should be referring to your text. Because at least, say, in 2017, your argument, was a fresh argument, was a breath of fresh air. Right? And that is what, would make it important. Now, so one of the things is what research and theory is there on your topic, on your chosen topic. Of course, all of us are mostly familiar with. What are the key sources? Who are the main theorists and researchers? And how has the topic and the problem been investigated over time? So, this chronology again is essential to it. The main ideas and debates. Now, before yes, it is about asking the right question, but it is also about you trying to define the problem. Right? I mean, before we grapple with the problem, it's like, it's a lot about training. Human beings is just like any other animal, right? We are concept-theory. We make sense of the world around us through the help of concepts, which we have acquired over a period of time, right? Now, each one of us would also, would come from different backgrounds. Right? The idea behind training is that there has to be a certain degree of uniformity. Right? So under a particular situation or scenario, you would react in a similar manner. Right? But that does not happen in research. Because yes, it is about how well you train your faculties. Right? So it is also about how well you use your faculties. Training is one thing, right? But you also have this capability to think. Right? So if the two are in sync with each other, there's nothing like it. Right? And that's precisely what you would try to do with it. It's like, have you seen this movie called Vantage Point? You have? It's a fascinating movie. Fascinating movie in terms of, so there's an assassination bid, which has happened, on the President of the United States. Right? There are 5 actors who are like that. President himself. And each one of them, narrates what had happened. Right? And they had, a very different idea about what had happened. Right? Because it was a product of, their training. So a security personnel, would have a very different understanding. Right? Than, say the force himself. Right? Or like, say a news personnel, would have a very different idea about what had happened. Right? So you are trained in a particular manner, and your training should actually reflect as far as like your engagement with the text is concerned. So if I'm a sociologist, if I'm reading a particular text, I would basically bring in that knowledge on the table. If I'm going to define this, I'm going to approach the same issue from a very different angle. Right? Because it's part of my training. Right? So which is where that critical engagement would come from, which is where that variation in terms of the treatment of the problem at hand would actually come from. So if you want to work on, it's like if you want to come and say, I want to work in communal rights. So what about it? Right? We have many. That's the first thing. And plus people have already written so much. So what are you going to tell us? Right? And then you can delve deeper into it. That probably I want to look at the issue historically. Right? Or probably I would look at the community formation itself and how it basically leads to communal riots. Or in like certain places, instances, it would actually work as a factor which would basically reduce the intensity of communal riots. Right? But you can only do that if you're not only well trained, but you're also pretty innovative when it comes to asking questions. Right? A good researcher is a lot like It's a lot like a good detective. Right? I mean, things don't change. Everything is remains the same. People come up with different, approaches. I mean, how you go about it. Right? Which is why I think, one of the fascinating things about methodology is, at least I know of political science, most of the political scientists who are majorly into theory building also happen to be people who are basically completely infatuated with the idea of reading these procedures. Right? Because you approach it methodologically. And how would you go about it? Right? And what kind of an approach you would have? Because at the end of the day, it will boil down to what you are looking for. Right? And what you are looking for would actually come from, your station in life, your location. So the last point here, what are the agreements and disagreements? And of course, and there are people, who are basically trying to grapple with the same scenario, and they would differ from each other. So I give you one example, say Stephen Wilkinson and Ashford Bashne. Another argument, could be, say Samuel Huntington's, Clash of Civilization. Right? So one of the most influential critique of Clash of Civilization was actually given by someone like Said. He basically says that in one of his extended essays, it's not a clash of civilization, it's a clash of endurance. Right? The thing is, both are in sync, right? There's a lot of debate which is going on, or at least goes on, on this compatibility between the Islamic civilization and the Christian civilization, as Huntington would say, and Said was actually criticizing. Right? Now, you would only know this if you actually read the text. Right? So, in one sentence, you can actually bring these two larger debates, together. Right? But your ability to do so is actually incumbent upon the fact whether you actually read the text or not, whether you are aware that there exists this debate. I think here, I think the second last point is perhaps the most important one. If I were to be using it ever, what evidence is lacking in conclusive or limited? Now, if your research is inconclusive, it's not such a bad thing, right? Or if you come with, and which is how you need to look at research papers and the books also. Inconclusive research, I mean, irrespective of how we are taught, I don't think it's a bad thing, because at least you know what's lacking here. Right? Or your explanation is actually comes from the fact that this is what you are aware of. If I don't know about something, then I cannot probably take that into account as far as my argument is concerned. Right? And which is why you need to go back. Right? And which is why when you are laying down your theoretical agenda, you need to base or your conceptual framework, you need to point out. Right? Which is why when you read a methodologically sound text, right at the onset, the author would actually tell you about the weaknesses, which is important. Right? Like say, if you read, ever get a chance to read Ashutosh Varshane's book, a lot of people criticize that book. So you would find equal number of people who like that book, and then you would find equal number of people who dislike that book. Right? But where they agree is basically that, methodologically speaking, it's an absolutely brilliant text. The reason being you find it difficult to criticize it. Right? Because just when you think that you have a point against the book, you will realize he himself has flagged that point. Right? So अगर मैं अपनी खामियां खुद बता रहा हूँ, then the other person does not stand a chance. Right? So I'm telling you what's wrong with my model. Right? I'm telling you these are the shortcomings. I'm also telling you why there are these shortcomings. Right? Now, but if I've done that, the onus is actually on you then. Right? To basically rework on my plane, come up with a hypothesis with what you've discovered, and basically take the debate forward. right? And which is precisely where you are actually bridging that gap. Right? So what was true, 10 years back, may not be the case today. Right? And it would certainly not be the case, 10 years from now. Right? But that still does not mean, what I have done today or what you've done today, is not good. Right? Or like it's not of any value. It is, of course. Right? But at the same time, what's equally important is that we need to basically take it a little forward. Right? And which is why when you're writing a proposal or when you're writing a thesis, right? I think it's important to mention, what are the shortcomings, right? Because no one is going to like penalize you on the fact, that you are yourself, are aware, of what's lacking. And that's a sign of, how good you were, with your work, right? That it makes that you've covered almost all the ground. Now, planning a review, of course, it has to be something, which is chronological, right? I mean, it cannot be like we are 2017 discussed and then you get down to 1947, right? So the debate, must have taken a particular form, and which is what, which is how you would go about. And I think when I do it, the thing with topics like review literature, there is no one way, right? But I think what I do is I jot down points, right? So, we're all human. We don't remember everything. So it always helps, right? So or you identify broad themes, right? And so chronologically and thematically, right? So it has to be consistent. So if you've written that, if you already have a rough outline or a framework, how would you proceed? And if when you're proceeding, you also need to mention a line or two, about why you are basically going about it in a particular manner. Right? That's something equally important, because I don't know, what's there in your mind. Right? As a reader, I don't know. So when I'm reading it, it should be crystal clear to me. And this is the agenda which we are following, and this is what would eventually lead to a particular build-up. Right? And that is how we visualize a larger picture. So theory is a lot like a trailer. Right? So it gives you an idea, it gives you an inkling about where exactly we are headed. It's like there are a lot of books we read, and we find it very difficult to go beyond the first half, and this is mainly the review literature. Right? They're dense. Make it engaging. Right? So that the reader actually feels that yes, this is something which has basically helped me recharge my memory. So if I'm like one of those who thinks that I know everything, right? Some of us do have that problem, right? Then I should also feel there's a lot which I didn't know, right? Or like which I have completely forgotten. Right? Or you have basically rediscovered, a particular text, or like you are actually forcing us to revisit, certain texts about which we have completely forgotten. It happens. Texts also have a shelf life. There are but some texts, which become very fashionable at a particular point of time, and then over a period of time people forget about it. Right? And then, some researchers feel, this framework, probably has acquired greater salience today than it had, say 2 decades back, right? And that's precisely why we probably need to look at it, with a fresh pair of glasses, right? Which happens quite often. Like say, it could be anything. Let's say if I want to work on, say if you look at the book, publishing industry right now. So every month you would actually have 2 volumes on Gandhi, right? Or like there will be like a lot of stuff on Rince. And when did Rince came? Way back, right? But now people are again rediscovering why this leak in the interest. Not only that the government would end up buying most of the books. It has to be something more. Right? That probably, what was being argued there, is probably making much more sense today than it did, say 5 decades back or 6 decades back. right? Or like if you were to look at, say, the debate, around secularism in India, right? There are some authors people have completely forgotten about. Now they are being, basically, people are bringing them back in, right? To understand, why it has taken a particular form, right? And how do you understand, about the things which are happening around you, right? Whether it's cyclical in nature or like it's there is a simultaneity about it, right? So these aspects, can only come about through the help of a researcher, because the task is not only, to show how much you know. It's also not, that how your work is different from the rest. It also has to be something, which is educated, right? Educated in terms of, when I'm reading the text, when I finish it, I should basically feel, that I've acquired something, right? Acquired something not only in terms of, that I probably have a new approach, towards analyzing a particular phenomenon. And that's, of course, is important. What's equally important is probably there was a text about which I didn't know, right, that it existed. Or even if I did know, that it existed, probably I never, made the effort, of reading it. And probably your analysis of the text, is basically forcing me, right, or cajoling me, to take a fresh look at the work at hand. So yes, I mean, it's got to be chronologically, thematically, approaches, techniques, major debates, and probably a combination of these. So, I mean, there is no one approach, right? But if I were to do it, I would like club, chronological order and thematic order together, right? So, because that would basically help you in terms of showing, why I have a particular framework in place. So, start with an overview. Probably a paragraph, right? Say 300 words, 400 words, about what exactly is that, before we jump on to reading your review of literature. Like how exactly you organize it. That's important, because otherwise the reader is basically left confused. Right, it does happen. I mean, if you're all over the place, right, so if I have read a lot and it does not, but I'm unable to basically have a framework, then it does not mean anything, right? Because the reader is completely confused. Not only the reader is confused, the writer himself or herself is confused, right? I mean, where exactly you are headed, right? I mean, review of literature cannot be something which comes but after you finished everything because you thought कि तो तैयार है हमारा synopsis में था, right? It does not. It has to be right in the beginning, right in the onset. So decide an organizing principle. I mean, that is something which you would know better. I mean, how exactly what things you want to work on. But use separate headings. That's important, right? So I mean, headings could be based upon the time frame which you have, right? Could be on the various themes you are trying to engage with, or could be on the basis of, I mean, depending upon what you're working on, could be on the basis of, the authors, right? All in different school of thoughts, right? But have a heading, because A, it looks neater. B, the thing is, it becomes, the argument becomes much more cozy. Now, this signpost, summative signposts are important, right? Because when you are doing a review of literature, it's not only about describing इसने ये कहा उसने ये कहा, right? So this person has basically gone with this argument, the other person is basically saying this, which is all very fine. That is why you are doing a review of literature. What's equally important here is to have a about what you think about a particular topic, right? And which is why these signposts are important. Right, so which is why when you're writing, you would suddenly say, that, however, right, I think that probably this is what is happening, right? So that's important, right? Because that is where, you are moving in, right? It is not about, X, Y, Z. It's about you and what you think, right? And which is what, is basically becomes a binding factor, which would basically bind, these different strands and bring them together into this larger whole, which is something which is concrete, which makes sense. Summarize your review, highlight gap in research. right? You need to basically show there's a gap, right? Which is where those signposts are important, right? So just not, it's not about telling us what you read. Maybe you have read 50 kitabs, right? You like 100 research articles. It's very good, right? But we still don't know, what you think, right? We still don't know, why we should be reading your work, right? And which is where the criticality is important, which is why you need to highlight, what you think, on a particular issue, right? Or like how we should differ, from the frameworks you are basically trying to engage with. Clarity, your paragraph, should actually have a clear structure. Don't write in long sentences. Don't like them, right? Brevity, is a sense. And I've written don't assume knowledge because this will also depend upon who exactly is the intended reader. So I might be familiar with a particular terminology, right? But most of you may not be. Like say if I come from political sciences and you political science background and you're a sociologist or from history background. Now I am basically talking to hat, right? If I'm like assuming that you already know what I'm talking about. Right? Or like I can make the same mistake, or you can make the same mistake. Assuming just because you've had this sound training as far as like say historiography is concerned, then the others are also familiar with it. It may not be the case, right? So what becomes important is basically not only clarity, conceptual clarity, but also probably in a line or two explaining what you are trying to do here, right? And in a very accessible manner. I think a good research is a research, which is accessible. I don't think, that writing, if you have a dense style of writing, one can't help it. It's an acquired thing. It's also about practice. But as much as possible, write it in a very simple, accessible manner. It's always better. And make sure the subject of your sentence is clear. Which is where it's important to revisit what you've written. Right?